The deadline for rookie contract extensions for the draft class of 2022 has come and gone, and with the NBA season set to kick off, we now know which of those players on rookie scale deals received extensions before heading into the final year of their deal, and which ones are set to become restricted free agents in the summer of 2026. And while some of the extensions really weren't surprises at all, there were some surprises, both good and bad, in terms of the value their respective teams signed their player up to. And so in this video, we're going to be going over the best valued and the worst valued rookie contract extensions, and let me know in the comments where you agree or disagree. Be sure to subscribe if you like this type of content, hit the like button, all that good stuff, help the YouTube algorithm, and in return, I'll be providing more NBA content like this. Now, like I mentioned, some of the contract extensions, especially the ones that occurred earlier on in the offseason, were not surprises at all. Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren getting signed a long-term extension, max level deals were expected after they were key pieces in the Thunder's run to the title. Paolo Banchero getting a 5-year max extension to $241 million, also not surprising, as the Magic view him as their franchise player and next superstar. And while I think we all knew guys like Jabari Smith Jr., Dyson Daniels, Christian Brown would get extended, how much they were going to be extended for was a bit more uncertain. But in any event, I'm going to start with the rookie contract extensions that were the best value deals for these players who haven't even entered their primes yet. I'm going to start with one that I think will eventually become one of the better bargain contracts in the league as the salary cap rises over the years, but that's the Portland Trail Blazers signing Shaedon Sharpe to a 4-year, $90 million deal. Now, just looking at the financials, this is an average annual salary of $22.5 million over those 4 years. We don't know yet whether this is front-loaded, back-loaded, or flat for the 4 years, but in any event, $22.5 million per, a contract that goes into effect the following season, not this season, when the NBA's projected salary cap in 26-27 is expected to be $166 million. So this contract is expected to be about 13.5% of the overall cap, and that's just in the first year, so you assume that that percentage is going to go down year over year as the salary cap rises. By comparison, guys like Banchero, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren are going to be making around 25% of the cap in 26-27. Obviously, Sharpe isn't the player those guys are, but getting a young 22-year-old up-and-coming player who has continued to get better every year he's been in the league. I won't say he had a breakout season last year, but a season that for a third-year player you can say, yeah, he can be a guy. Don't know that he'll turn into an all-star, but a guy you can build with. A guy at 13.5% of the cap or less over the next 4 years when he's starting to enter his prime. Not only is it a tradable contract if you need to pivot down the line, but a contract that could be a low-risk, high-reward scenario. Last season, Sharpe averaged over 18 points per game. Not the most efficient player, but his efficiency was up overall from last season as he improved in his ability to get to the rim and finish in the paint. He's got to work on that three-point shot. He's a high-volume three-point shooter and a streaky shooter at that. He's got to shoot better than 31%, and hopefully for the Blazers, if they can get some more help offensively, hopefully the addition of Jrue Holiday will get more open looks for him, more opportunities offensively. It'll hopefully end up paying dividends for the Blazers long-term. I still see a lot of potential from Sharpe, who is a very skilled, very athletic player, just needs the right mentoring and teammates around him to help him make him better. Another great value extension that I like, and I know some have already said this was an overpay, but that's Dyson Daniels agreeing to a 4-year, $100 million extension with the Atlanta Hawks. This one came down to the wire, almost looked like the Hawks and Daniels weren't going to come to an agreement. It was reported that Daniels wanted 5 years, $150 million, and the Hawks were staying firm at 5 years, $115 million. But then just hours later, right before the deadline, we got the Shams bomb. The Hawks and Daniels had agreed to a shorter deal at 4 years, but closer to the AAV that Dyson was looking for at $25 million per year. Same deal Josh Giddey got, but I like this for the Hawks because it was clear there was some untapped potential that wasn't being realized from Daniels in his time with the New Orleans Pelicans. And the Hawks were able to get the most out of Daniels' skill set, harness it, and enable him to thrive in having a breakout season where he would win Most Improved Player of the Year and the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. And so while some might call it an overpay, paying $25 million a year for a guy who's rather limited offensively, nah, $25 million heading into the 26-27 season and beyond over the next 4 years is going to be between 13 and 15% of the overall salary cap over the course of that deal. He's an elite defender, arguably the best perimeter defender in the NBA, a high IQ player on both ends of the floor, and a young player who has also shown major strides on offense. People talk about his defense like he's a one-dimensional player, but he took a leap on offense as well last season, going from averaging 5.8 points per game to 14.1 On solid efficiency, shooting 49% from the field, 34% from deep, and a true shooting percentage of 54%, the highest of his career. For a 22-year-old, who you would think is only going to get better and better on offense and is already one of the best defensive players in the game, getting him at $25 million per year is great value. And then finally, one of the other better value extensions, one that came down to the wire as well before the deadline, but that's Aaron Nesmith agreeing to a 2-year, $40.4 million deal. I don't really like this deal for Nesmith. I think it's a great annual amount, but if I'm Nesmith, I would have pushed for more years. Otherwise, I'm holding out, betting on myself in a year where you're going to get a lot more opportunity with no Halliburton on the court and try to get even more money as a restricted free agent. But at least from a value perspective, I mean, this is a great deal for the Pacers. Short-term deal gives them more cap flexibility when they're in kind of an uncertain time right now after losing Miles Turner. Halliburton's going to be out for the season. They didn't extend Mathurin, but they get Nesmith, who was incredible for them in this past postseason run, has been their most consistent outside shooter, somehow became a member of the 50-40-90 club this past season, albeit on low volume. A true shooting percentage of 65%, was just as efficient in the playoffs. And I just don't think Nesmith gets enough credit for how effective he was in that finals run last year. Everyone talked about how great Halliburton was, but the Pacers don't get as far as they do without Nesmith shooting lights out in the clutch. Nesmith is already 26, so he is a bit older than the rest of these guys from the 2022 draft class, but this is still excellent value if you're the Pacers. Now let's talk about some of the not so great contract extensions. And I'm going to start with a contract that I know this team had to do it. I would have been surprised if it went any other way, but I don't think it's good value for the player in question, and that's the Thunder giving Chet Holmgren that rookie max extension at 5 years, $241 million. A fully guaranteed deal, no player or team options. I get it. They just won the championship. Chet is a big piece of their core. He's only 23, hasn't entered his prime yet, and he is a very, very good two-way player, high IQ player on both ends, a big that can space the floor, rebound, block shots. But is he a max level player? Is he worth spending 25% of the cap on? And the main concern for me when it comes to Chet are the injury concerns. Like, he's only played 2 seasons of his young career, 114 games, only played 32 games last season, obviously missed his whole first season due to injury. Giving him a max contract extension when he's only given you 114 games in his career is a risky move in my opinion. And I know there's still a lot of upside with Chet. I know he helped you win a championship, but you're paying him like he's a star when I don't think we have enough data and information, especially when it comes to his durability, to make that kind of determination. And then the other thing that concerns me when it comes to the value of his contract is the Thunder now have 3 max players on their roster. SGA and Jalen Williams absolutely deserve the max. SGA, MVP, top 5 player in the league. Jalen Williams, already an all-star, all-NBA player in just his 3rd season. I take no issue with those guys getting max level money, but a 3rd max contract for a player like Chet Holmgren, when you're seeing some other contracts that were handed out to players in this draft class making half, sometimes even less than half of the deal Chet got, it becomes a bit worrisome. He's one of the best players in that 2022 class, but a $241 million contract, to me, that's a stretch. And then the only other contract that I feel wasn't that great in terms of the overall value of the deal, but that's the Kings giving Keegan Murray that 5-year, $140 million contract. And the main reason I'm not a fan of this one is because this was a classic example of a team that would have benefited letting this wait out and going to restricted free agency and letting the market determine the player's worth. The Kings are an absolute mess right now. I really need to do a whole video on that team and what a disaster this roster is, but because this roster is so uncertain, because it's destined to be a roster that is going to fail to the point where they're eventually going to have to blow things up, they would have been best served to hold off on Murray's contract, see how this season goes, see how he performs, give yourself some flexibility going into next season, and not commit a lot of long-term money to a young player who has been nice. He's a piece you can work with, but it's probably never going to blossom into a star player. But instead, the Kings, being the Kings, decided to commit $140 million guaranteed to Murray, paying him an average of $28 million per year when he actually regressed a bit in his 3rd season. Now, granted, some of that regression, I'm sure, has to do with the fact that the Kings' personnel and adding players who require a high amount of usage, touches, and shots like DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, but Murray's 3-point shooting, which was a saving grace for the Kings in his rookie year, has only gotten worse with every passing season. His overall field goal percentage has declined. His free throw rate has gone down. Like, I think Murray is a fine player, but he's also an older player from this draft class, already 25. You're paying him this money until the age of 30, while these other guys are getting their extensions at age 22, 23. I just don't like this deal for the Kings. I don't think it's good value for a player that doesn't have much upside beyond what we've already seen, and I don't like the deal for the Kings given they didn't have to extend him this offseason, and would have been best served to see how the season transpires for the team and determine from there what they should do with Keegan Murray going forward. It will be interesting to see how restricted free agency goes next offseason, as there will be quite a few teams that will have a lot of cap space in 2026, unlike this past offseason when so few teams had the ability to make offers to restricted free agents. And there are also going to be a lot of restricted free agents heading into 2026, most notably Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey, Benedict Mathurin, Tari Eason, Walker Kessler, a lot of great young players who could be on the move if their teams don't match offers to retain them. So anyway, enjoy the start of the NBA season. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of some of these rookie contract extensions. Let me know. As always, guys, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.